And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had, and she dwelleth in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. This next verse is what I want to focus on. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Lord that riseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his younger son shall he set up the gates of it. Joshua's curse is often overlooked, but is one of the verses concerning Joshua that we can use to verify the accuracy of the biblical timeline. First, let's find out when the Bible tells us that the conquest took place. Let's read 1 Kings chapter 6 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziph, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of the Lord. The 4th year of Solomon is generally accepted as 966 BC. Therefore, 480 years prior, the Israelites had left Egypt. That's 1446 BC. Then we spent 40 years in the wilderness that we can verify in the book of Numbers. And your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms, until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. This makes the start of the conquest at around 1406 BC. Now I know that there are some scholars who will try to convince you that these numbers found in the Bible are not literal years, but I hope to demonstrate why these dates are accurate throughout this video. So first, let's go to the confirmation of where Joshua's curse comes to pass in the book of Kings. In his days did Hiel the Bethelite build Jericho. He laid the foundation thereof in Abiram his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof in his younger son Segub, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Joshua the son of Nun. This happened during the reign of Ahab of the northern kingdom, who is dated from 873 to 852 BC. This is exactly when the Iron Age 1B town in Tel Es Sultan was built, biblically known as Jericho. So no matter when you think the book of Kings was written, the authors are telling you that this is the first town to be built in Jericho since Joshua and the Israelites were there. We know through archaeology that the last town standing at Jericho was the Middle Bronze 2 BC, which had a fortified wall that was destroyed, and the town was subsequently burnt, just as it is described in the Bible. So the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they burnt the city with fire, and all that was therein, only the silver and the gold, and the vessels of brass and of iron, they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. So they are letting us know that it was Joshua who was responsible for this destruction. But the Bible tells us this Middle Bronze Age city was destroyed circa 1406 BC, and not hundreds of years earlier as conventional history tells us. Let me just quickly say that this discrepancy with the dates is caused by errors in Egyptian chronology concerning the 3rd intermediate period that have never been addressed. I have done several videos on this channel concerning the matter, but for this video I'm not going to address them because I believe that Joshua's account does a very good job in demonstrating the flaws in conventional ancient history. So let's go back to the Middle Bronze 2 BC and prove Joshua was responsible for its destruction. In tomb H13, they found the scarab belonging to the early Hyksos king of Egypt, Sheshi. In the Bible, this is none other than the Anakim ruler Sheshai, who Joshua drove out of Hebron. And unto Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave a part among the children of Judah, according to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, even the city of Arba, the father of Anak, which is Hebron. And Caleb drove thence the 3 sons of Anak, Sheshai, and Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. Sheshai would subsequently go on to occupy Sharuhen, which is modern Tel El Azur, and now we know that he also occupied the Egyptian Delta as the 5th early Hyksos ruler. So not only are the Bible scribes telling us that it was Joshua who destroyed the Middle Bronze Age city at Jericho, they knew enough to let us know that Sheshai was active in the region at this time. So this cannot be at any other time in Jericho's history. And remember, they write that these events are taking place around 1400 BC. Historians conventionally place Sheshi's rule in Egypt between circa 720 BC and 1650 BC. This similarity between Sheshai and Sheshi has been pointed out before. Aaron Kempinski, a Bronze Age specialist, believes the Bible's authors based the fictional Anakim Sheshai on the early Hyksos ruler. He only believes this as he doesn't understand that there is a 300-year discrepancy in Egyptian chronology that doesn't allow him to equate the two rulers as the same person. So now let me make the case to back up the biblical account that claims all these events took place around 1400 BC without having to unwrap the mess that is Egyptian chronology. There was another phenomenon that happened during the conquest just after the destruction of Jericho that we can also cross-reference. The 5 kings of the Amorites, upon seeing the destruction of Jericho, came against the Israelites at Gibeon. This was the day that Joshua made the sun stand still. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hastened not to go down about a whole day. Most scholars will dismiss this as fantasy. The sun and the moon cannot be halted during their course. In fact, the Bible tells us this is impossible. Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. So the course of the sun and the moon cannot be altered in that way. But this verse is not fantasy. It has, however, been misinterpreted slightly. The sun didn't stand still, rather it was eclipsed. The word interpreted as stand comes from the Hebrew root word damam, which also occurs in Akkadian as da'amu, meaning to become dark. Then in the next slide, it mentions the moon stayed, or rather it eclipsed the sun until sunset, the miracle being that the sun was eclipsed the entire day. If you have seen an eclipse before, you've probably seen it last for a few minutes before the sun is uncovered. Joshua is letting us know that this eclipse lasted until the sun went down. This is very easy to prove or disprove. We can use astro-retro calculations to look to see if there was an event like this that could be seen from the vantage point of Gibeon at the time the Bible tells us that the conquest took place. And sure enough, on the 14th of July, 1406 BC, we witnessed a solar eclipse that could be seen from Gibeon that lasted the entire day. Taking this astronomical event into consideration, it is easy to see how this verse has been mistranslated. Early scholars would not have had the means of being able to know the position of the sun and the moon during the battle against the Amorites in the way that we do today. I also want you to think of how much of a coincidence it would have to be that the scribes wrote that Joshua had fought against the Amorites at Gibeon in 1406 BC and caused the sun to stand still in the sky at a time when he also would have been able to visually witness a solar eclipse that lasted throughout the day whilst fighting the Amorites. Also, how did the scribes manage to synchronize the chronology of the solar eclipse with Joshua's long day, whilst attempting to claim that the destruction of Jericho and the time frame of activity for Sheshai happened around the same time when conventional chronology tells us that these events are separated by 300 years? Well, if you believe in the historical account of Joshua based on the evidence provided in this video, we can see all these events took place during the same time period, and it's the conventional history that needs revision. I hope that this video has proved that we can trust the accuracy of the biblical timeline and make us wary of conventional Egyptian chronology and how it has obscured the history of the Israelites. I have many more examples of biblical stories that prove the accuracy of the biblical timeline that I will go through in the future. And of course, I'll explain the error in Egyptian chronology that caused the whole world to believe that biblical Israelite history is fiction. Please share this video with anyone you believe needs to hear this, and I will see you in the next video. All praises to the Most High.